Hey there, thanks for joining me today for Summer Scrappin Day 16. This is Audrey. My guest today is Ashley Laura, who does a ton of different types of things on her YouTube channel, and she just does beautiful and gorgeous projects, so please go check out her page. So I am starting with this cut file from the Just Knix store. I saw this cut file and I really wanted to use it. I absolutely love it. It has like 6 little squares with kind of summer theme icons and phrases in it, but I wanted to change it up a bit to go along with my the theme of my page. So I am opening a second cut file, which is called Summer Fun, and this one has little summer icons as well. And I really wanted the anchor and the palm tree because, like I said, they kind of go along better with my theme. So I had traced and highlighted the other squares, and I deleted the things inside a couple of the squares, and I'm going to replace them with these other shapes. So this is a easy way to edit cut files. And I'm going to add in another word on this one. I'm just going through all my different fonts and kind of picking a font that I think goes with it. So I'm going to leave these squares the size that they are. And I had sketched out a plan for this page. So I was really inspired by these particular cut files, and I know I wanted to kind of have a border of these files and use a lot of bright, fun pattern papers and really make them pop. So I'm just playing around with this font here. Sometimes I have trouble with getting fonts to weld correctly so that the insides of the letters, like for example the little holes in the word fun, so that they show up when you weld them together. But I finally figured out how to do that after a lot of trial and error with releasing a compound path and making something back into a compound path. And if that's something that you would like instructions on, please let me know and I can write up a little tutorial on how to do it. Okay, so I've gotten each of my squares how I want them, and I'm kind of leaving some kind of negative space in the squares because I know that I want to stitch over them and maybe add a few embellishments here and there. So I decided to use this piece of pattern paper from the from the Crepe Paper Oasis collection as my background, and I really want to soften up the pattern a little bit. And you can see my stuff is cutting at the top of my screen there. But I used too much gesso and it was really thick, so I just took my excess and kind of a spatula, and I'm just going to put my excess on another piece of white cardstock because I'm sure I will use it at some point. So that's for next time. So here are my squares cut out, and when I pulled these, so I cut 3 by 3 pieces of paper, and when I pulled them off, I'm like, oh my gosh, they look like frames. So I'm totally going to save those squares, the negatives, for another project as well. So this one piece of pattern paper that's kind of yellow and zigzag, I wanted to fill in the white a little bit more because I thought I put the palm tree on that particular piece, and I just didn't think that the design of the palm tree was going to stand out against those really bold zigzag patterns. So I thought that if I kind of made the whole thing a little bit more yellow to make it look more like a solid, that it might stand out a little bit better, and it definitely does. So I'm just trying to mix some watercolors here to kind of match the mustard color. And you can see on my paints, I don't really have a mustardy color. I did, but it was a little bit too orange. So I add a little purple. I always add the opposite color on the color wheel to kind of tone down the brightness of a color. Just a teeny tiny bit you need. And this cut file cut really nicely, nice clean cuts. And I just love how these little cards came out. So here's my photo, and like I said, I had sketched this out already, and I thought I was going to have 6 squares fit across the bottom, but and sometimes I design it and lay it out in Silhouette Studio, but I didn't this time. But I will use 5, and that's fine because I had 2 pink squares, and it kind of threw off the balance anyway. So just having the 1 pink square in the middle was fine, and I like it with 5, and I like to work with odd numbers anyway. So I'm going through this die cut ephemera pack from the Oasis collection, and I pulled out this title, which was kind of perfect, the Sea Sun Fun, because we were on a boat trip on the ocean, a dolphin and shell collecting tour, and it was a beautiful sunny day and we had a lot of fun. And I like that. Sometimes I don't like using these cards because they can be so big, and I don't like to have huge big elements and have them take away from my photo. But that is going to be my title. I'm not going to put any other title on my page, so I'm going to be okay with that. So I play around with a lot of the embellishments here, and I was just having trouble. I was just having trouble like layering. I don't know if it was because my photo was too big or what, but I was just a little bit stuck, or maybe because I was limiting myself to just the stuff in this collection. So I'm not sure. But I decided to add a little bit more interest on the edges because it was a little boring, and I wanted to pick up on the black lettering in the card there, and I thought having some black here off the edge of the page would draw your eye towards that part of the page and really kind of pick up on the black lettering. So I'm going to use this piece of wave paper, and when I put that against my background, I thought it was still a little too plain, so I decided to add a little border to that as well, and I think I go with this kind of greenish color. And when I do this, I know some people use the whole piece of pattern paper. I just can't do that. It does make your layout kind of uneven in terms of like weight, so that this bottom corner now where all these papers are layered is a little bit heavier. But yeah, I just can't use the whole piece of paper because I only buy one of each piece of pattern paper. Rarely do I ever buy two of the same pattern paper. There is so much pattern paper out there, and it comes out so quickly, new patterns, that I don't have time or the photos to use the same piece of pattern paper twice, so I very rarely buy two of them. And if I have one that I really love and I've only bought one of it, then I try to somehow use both sides of it if I like both sides. Okay, so that was my little rant about pattern paper. I'm one to talk. I have more pattern paper than I could ever use in my entire life, but... All right, so back to this. I decided next to back these open areas on these little squares with pattern paper. So I definitely want to use something that contrasts with the square itself. So I'm just going through the 6x6 paper pad, and I'm trying to distribute the colors evenly, and again, use something that's contrasting so that the color and the pattern stands out. So that brown was a little too dark, or actually it was too close to the yellow for the palm tree. And just like I did for the yellow palm tree square, you can see I put that yellow behind the anchor, and you can see how the pattern of that yellow just is really too bold. So I do go back through, and this time I'm going to use a gelato, and this I probably should have used to begin with on the card, but it's a gold gelato, and it really matches the color really nice once it's blended. So that's a lot better. It makes the pattern of that anchor stand out much more. So I decided to do some mixed media in the background using some gelatos and some mists. And at the end, the final product, you can hardly see any of the mixed media at all because I just add so many layers and tags and little bits that I kind of cover this whole thing up. I was trying to match the kind of minty blue color that's on the background paper already, like the little top where it says the adventure log. So I was trying to match that color to kind of make that blend in a little bit. So I'm just using kind of a minty seafoam color gelato. And then I thought I'd go over it with some purple because there is some purple in the pattern papers, and just pick up on the colors. I love how these colors came out, but like I said, in the long run you can't even see this mixed media. And maybe I should have put it more like kind of up towards the edge so you could see it in the end. So I'm really going to town here with the purple, but when this purple, it doesn't stay very well. When you dab it with a paper towel, a lot of it soaks up. Okay, so that's done and that's dry. Add a little bit of gold, and I'm going to start layering everything back on. I'm going to first just glue these squares to their pattern papers. I'm going to commit to those. this liquid glue is my all-time favorite liquid glue. This is mixed media liquid adhesive from ThermoWeb, and it's just, I used to use the Scotch quick dry glue all the time, and I was kind of hooked on that. But and I do design for ThermoWeb, and they came out with this product, and I was like, I don't know, I'm kind of attached to my Scotch quick dry, but I like this liquid glue much better. It doesn't dry as quickly as the Scotch quick dry, which is a good thing sometimes because you can still pull stuff off, but it does adhere and solidly, and it once it's on, it really does not move, and I love that. Okay, so going back and adding in a little bit more peach here, and because I saw that the pink card in the middle there had a little bit of peach in it, and I thought, well, maybe I want to bring some more, lighter, brighter colors in, and I did that, and I did not like it at all. It just didn't go well, so I kind of lighten it up as much as I can. I do go back over it with a little bit of the mint. So I have the chipboard for this collection. I have the 6x12 sticker sheets. I have the ephemera pack. I have all the pattern papers. And for some reason, I was just struggling. I did not know, because those cards were such like a big design element, I didn't really know what else to add because they took up so much space, and I don't know, they were just a big element in the page, and I didn't want to add too much more to it. So I had a hard time picking out embellishments here, and I don't know what it was. Maybe I was just kind of in a funk or a block, but that happens sometimes. But I love the way these little cards came out. So I'm just going to pick some small things. So I use a couple stickers, and I found a piece of flair. That piece of flair that says salty is actually from Click Kit's store, and I had it in a little pack of summer ephemera that they had, and I pulled that out, and I find a couple brads. Well, they're not brads, but they're fake brads, and those are from Cocoa Vanilla Studios, one of their summer collections, I think called Endless Summer. And I wanted to bring in a couple of those colors up to the top a little bit more. So I bring in the yellow tag, which I think balances the yellow nicely and creates that visual triangle with the yellow elements, the yellow palm tree card and the yellow anchor and the little yellow tag at the top, which I do move that tag over a little bit above the Sea Sun Fun card. And when I cluster my embellishments, I try to keep them in kind of 3 main areas, and that may have been part of my problem because I had this big cluster obviously to the left of my photo, and I had this whole line of cluster, elements along the bottom here with these little cards, and then I felt like I needed to do something in the top right of my photo as well, but then I felt like it was getting too jammed up, so I don't do too much here behind the corner. I definitely like the addition of that dark piece of paper there because, again, that completes a visual triangle with the dark elements on the page. So I had to have that dark piece of paper up there behind my photo. And that was just one of the extra frames that cut out from my cut file. So put that behind there, and it picks up on the dark square and the dark and the fish. And I'm going to find a few label stickers, and this is pretty much, the design is going to end up pretty much like this, and I move things around slightly, and actually I think my final page is even a little bit different than the arrangement that you'll see here, but I wasn't, I'm still not, even after this page is finished, I am still not completely, totally happy with it, but it is what it is, and I'm not going to go back and change it because I've got more photos to scrap and more papers to use. So I never ever go back and redo a layout. I figure I don't have time for that, and I've got other things I want to do, and they can't all be, the masterpieces that you want them to be. Sometimes it just doesn't work out, and that's quite all right. Okay, so I'm just going to glue a few more things on. I did go through the Pink Paisley Summer Lights collection, and I took off a couple of those iridescent holographic seashells stickers, and I layered them in with the other elements, and I glued everything down. punching a hole in this tag. I do add some twine. I add some just plain natural color twine. I thought that really picked up on kind of the wood grain pattern paper. And I love that little flamingo sticker. That one was perfect. There were other flamingos stickers and bits and chipboard in this collection, but they were kind of cutesy and kind of almost like cartoony, and I did not like that. So this flamingo was perfect because it was kind of just an outline. You know it's a flamingo, but it doesn't stand out too much, but it definitely kind of contributes to the feel of the page. I'm going to glue these chipboard pieces down too because they just do not stick. And I fiddle around with this dumb seashell for like 5 minutes trying to figure out the best place to put it. Because I just didn't, the shape of it was just so funny amongst the flamingo. So I knew also that I was going to add some stitching, and I definitely wanted to add some stitching on the top of these cards. So I wanted to stitch them right to the page. So I'm going to add just a little bit of glue to the top edge of the cards and stitch across the top, and then kind of like go through with my hand and kind of curl up the edges a little bit so they kind of stick off the page. Almost kind of that they look like a little bit of a banner, but I like giving them kind of a lift and a curl just to give them a little dimension, I guess. What else? Just gluing things down. I decided to tuck that one over there. Actually, I moved those around in my final page as well. I move that piece of flare from behind the leaves and I move it down underneath kind of the fish card, kind of hidden under there. So I'm just finally just going to glue that seashell there underneath the flamingo. Kind of looks like he's sitting on it, but whatever. So I felt because the bottom and the right side were so heavy with pattern that now the top and the left were just kind of completely empty. So I'm just going to go around here with a pen and just sketch a border, and that definitely helps frame it a little bit better. But I still feel like the top and the left are empty, even when I look at it now. I should have added something more there, or maybe I shouldn't have even added those papers along the edge, but coulda, woulda, shoulda. So to make these designs stand out a little bit more, I decided to trace them, and what I did first with this first one was I kind of went along inside the lines and kind of tried to follow the pattern, but I didn't exactly trace around the edge. Like my pen wasn't following the outside paper. I kind of just doodled inside the line, and I hated the way it looked. So I replaced that piece of paper and then went through and traced them all again. So you can see I stitched as well, and I stitched over each square with different color threads, and I stitched a little bit over the top of my photo. And then when I had it sitting like this, I'm like, it's so disjointed. It needs something to join the top and the bottom together. And so I put a strip of pattern paper in there, and that just, to me, just completes it. And it just brings the two sides together, and it was what was missing, I think. And I did not stitch over that because I had the stitching on the cards, but I liked it the way that helps kind of complete the page. So there it is. And I do like the little details on this page. I'm very, we're each our own worst critic, but it's not my favorite page in the world, but I like it, and it's done. And now I can move on to the next one. So thank you so much for joining me for day 16 today. Please go check out Ashley Laura's channel as well. I think you'll love what she does. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow for day 17.